Hi everyone, so I'm back with part 2 of this mini album combo junk journal, and in part 1 I've shown you how to make this hinge piece and the 5 base pages. And so for part 2 what I've done is I've taken these 3 pages that are going to have a signature stitched into them, and I've just sort of popped them in and clipped them on with a paper clip, and I've done that for signatures for pages 1, 3 and 5. So 1, 3 and 5 have those just clipped on for the moment. I don't know whether I'll adjust the width of that 1/2 inch hinge or not yet. I'll just see how it comes together. So then I had, out of the scrap pieces, I had the 2 pieces that I'm going to make into a gatefold page. So I've just put double-sided tape. I've scored that at 1/2 inch either side, and that's going to be a gatefold page. It will sit like that and open up. And then with one of the scrap pieces, I thought that would make a nice pocket, so I'm going to sit that like that and turn that into a pocket. And so what I'll do is I will put these pages on. So what I want to be careful of, this is my base page, and I just want to make sure that that's the edge of my base page. I don't want to go over that and into that space there. That's my 1/4 inch of free space, and that's going to allow the journal to lay flat. So when I put things on, I want to make sure I only go to the very edge of that base page there. And so these are all the right height. I'm not going to ink anything just yet. I'll ink at the end. So I'll put this side on and just make sure it lines up with the edge and doesn't go over. And then with the other side, I've got 2 choices. I can either sit it on the top like this one, so you see the tab there, or I can open that and tuck that in and hinge that on there. What I'm going to do for the moment is that will reinforce that and make that a you can make that a pocket. But what I'll do for the moment is I'm just going to put it on the front of this one, mainly because I've already put the tape on, and if I glue it, it will be glued onto the back part. But it just gives me an option to put something extra on the other side. So both ways it will reinforce that edge, but it's a nice way to tuck things in if you can. So I'm going to sit this other one on here. So that's my gatefold, and then my pocket will go on there, and what I will do is I will decorate the back of that first. So I'm just going to clip that on for the moment. And I'll decorate that base page first. So page 1's going to open up and have a junk journal signature in it. I haven't thought about the back of that. Page 2's going to start with a gatefold. There's another signature going to open up there. And then this page, I've got, these were the 4 scrap pieces that I'm going to turn into photo flips. So I've put double-sided tape on each of the edges. And now it's just a matter of sitting and thinking. I could have 2 flip out like that and 2 flip the other way. Or even have 2, I could stagger them and have them all flipping the same way. Actually, that might look nice. I might do that. So they all open sideways. So I will do that. So I'll start with this one and put it on the bottom. And then just seeing how that's going to work. One on the top. So I'll put this one on at the top. And these can be any size. I just wanted to make certain that I didn't end up with too many more scraps, because that's the whole point, is trying to get rid of all the scraps. So I've just left them the length that they were when I cut them off, and then just leave them so that they overlap. So from the bottom, I'm just going to come up about 1/2 inch. And then use the same spacing on the top for this other one, so come up 1/2 inch from the top. So they will have photos on them. I can do more with that base in a minute. I still have these pieces left. That one's the same width. I could even make that a belly band if I wanted, and have something tuck under there. So I might just leave that one, because that's the last piece in that size. I might just clip that on and think about that. And I can use magnets to close that. That leaves me with these pieces. For the moment, I'll just leave them be. Now, what I was thinking for the back, so this is page 1 again, and that's going to have the signature in it. I was thinking for the back, if that's the gatefold page, I need a way to close that. I could actually use those to make pockets and leave it open, or turn that into triangles, which is, I think, I will do. So I want to make triangles for that. I need to get it to fit, I want to make it a square first. So I want it to be, so it's 10.5 centimeters, or 4 1/8. So I'm going to cut a new piece at 4 1/8. By 4 1/8. And then cut that in half. And that will give me 2 triangles which will fit onto there. And this leftover card, once they're glued on after I decorate them, that leftover card will slot in and close that gatefold section. So I'm just going to clip all of those bits on for the moment because I need to do some decorating first. So that's the gatefold page. Then on this page, so on this is page 1. On the back of page 1, what I might do is make a layered flip. So I could cut card so that I've got different widths. So let me see what I've got. This whole page is 8 1/4. So if I score a 1/2 inch, I've got I'm just going to cut this at 5 1/4. And that's going to give me 2 different size pieces that I can score and layer on top of each other, so that becomes an interesting little flip. So I need to score a 1/2 inch on both of those. Now the bigger piece, I will tuck inside and glue it that way. So I will trim just a little bit off just to make that easier to slot in, and pop some double-sided tape on the inside part of that flap. Then I want to tuck that in. Fold that the other way, tuck that in. And I just want the score mark to be just visible so that it folds nicely. Grab that top corner. And then peel that tape out. So that's the first one, and with the second one, what I might do is glue that on top of that first one so that that doesn't get too bulky. And I can always cover that little tab piece with decoration. I don't need to trim that if that's going there. Okay. get that lined up top and bottom. Okay, so then I've got a laid thing going on there, and I can always do a little bit more with that one. So page 1 is a journal flip. The back of that page has a little layered one. I've got my gatefold with a pocket and the corner pockets with a closure on it. That one is yet to be decorated. I've got another journal flip, and then I've got a photo flip here. So I might leave that for the minute and think about what else I'm going to do with the rest of those. What I've done in the meantime is I've gone through everything that's likely to be able to be used as a journal page, because I need the 3 signatures. So this was all of the pile I had on the desk. So anything that is already vintage looking or aged looking, I've put into one pile, including some odd size bits of old scrapbook paper that I found in those drawers. So that's all there. Then anything that is not yet aged looking, I've separated. And any of the, so this has all got very white looks about it. So I'm going to coffee dye that. And then these are all of the pieces of full-size scrapbook paper. Full-size, sorry, A4 printed with digitals on it. So this is all various digital papers. And so what I thought I could do, I could either put them into the printer and print on the back, or just coffee dye these as well. So that's my choices. Since I'm going to coffee dye all of that, I might as well just coffee dye the backs of all of these. And so I will come back when that's all done and then start to put the 3 signatures together that are going into those flip out signature pages. So the process for coffee dyeing is I've just got 3 teaspoons of coffee in a little plastic container. I'm pouring in some hot water, and I'm just going to give that a quick stir just to get most of that dissolved. Any coffee will do, or tea bags. Just put your tea bags or your coffee in and let that dissolve a little bit. And then I've just got some leftover coffee that's gone cold. Just going to add that in. And then I've got on my bench, I've got a few oven trays. I've got the oven on low, and I've just got an old art brush here. I'm just going to grab my papers and pop them face down in the tray. So I'll just do a couple of these. I've just got the oven on, it's on about 150, and so that's just to let it sort of get warm. And then I'm just going to paint the back of these. To hold the camera and the coffee in place. So I'm just painting the back of these with the coffee. And I don't care if it gets on the back. Can drip a few bits here and there. And I'll just pop that in the oven for a few minutes, and then I'll work on the next one. So I've got 3 trays going. So I'll just go through that process of just letting that dry fairly quickly in the oven, and I'll show you the finished process. So here are the results from the coffee dyeing process. So the envelopes have come out nicely. And then I'll quickly just flip through the papers. So they just get a really nice look about them. And it just makes them look nice and aged. Some of them pick up little bits of colour from the metal. But these all look really nice. The matte papers look great. And what I tend to do is, so I'll paint the back of it, put it on the oven tray, pop it in the oven, probably for about 2 minutes, and then when there's not water pooling on it, when it's not soaking wet, it's starting to partially dry, I pull it off the tray and just leave it on the oven rack. And so some of them have got a few lines from the oven racks on them. That's fine. You can see that one there. It all just adds to it. But that means that, and I pull them out when they're just damp, so I don't let them get too crunchy dry. So they're still lovely, got that lovely crinkle, but they're not burnt to a crisp, because it's very easy to leave them in for too long and burn them. So there's all my papers. So now what I need to do is create 3 signatures. I've kind of got one already just from what I had left over. So I've got one with a flip out on it on some music paper. I've just put together cut some of that cardstock down. That's got an envelope on it. And so this is all nicely aged. There's some tea-dyed paper, some smaller pieces, and an envelope to go in the middle. And I think that's about 15 pages. So I'll make another 2 signatures up from this, and then these will be ready to go. So this is my page 1. So this will be ready to get stitched onto that spot there. Let me just see if that 1/2 inch that we've got. So it might still be a little bit too big, the 1/2 inch. It's actually really hard to get it to sit in place. Hang on, I'll try that again. So 1/2 inch might be a little bit too much. I could, oh no, I think that's fine. So I'll make my 3 signatures with about 15 pages, and then I can still decorate them, and that will sit nicely. So all I need to do really to make a signature is I want a couple of the pieces of the journal paper, so just folding it in half. I haven't ironed this. You could if you wanted to. These prints were, I was having problems with my printer. I had to send it away to get the print heads serviced and cleaned. And so these papers didn't print perfectly, which is why they were in the scrap paper drawer. So by coffee dyeing them, it's kind of given them a second life. So I'll go 3 of those for one signature. And 1, 2, 3 of those for another. And this is in a lot of these papers. These are all from the vintage collection on Studio 19 Digitals. A lot of these will fit in with the photos. For example, family members who played the piano, those that travelled overseas to Europe and so on. So these papers will go with the stories that go in the albums. So there's 3 for each signature. The envelopes can wait. And let's have encyclopedia piece. One on that one and one on that one. That makes it 4. And these ones with the numbers on are pretty plain. They can be 5. There's just a plain tea dyed on the other pile. And that piece from that pile. I'm just looking at the width of it. So if I fold that to about the same width, and then I've got an extra little bit so that can fold across. So we've got 3, 4, 5, that's 6 on that one, 6 on that one, 6. There's these math pages, and again, this is on the old paper size, foolscap I think it was called. So again, just keeping it about the same size, and then I can fold a bit over. So it's 7. And 7 on that one. A piece of the matte paper on each of them. Now this is going to be too tall. So I can either cut it down and fold it that way, or fold it in half and cut it down if I need to. That makes that 8. And 8. It's another very plain piece. Love the crinkly sound when it's been tea dyed. That's 9. And then I've got a bit of this Shakespeare paper. 10. And then this is the scrapbook paper. I've just cut, these were those odd sizes, I've just sort of cut them down a bit. So 11, 11, and a smaller piece, 12, another smaller piece, that's 13, 14, 14. An envelope can go on each of them, and there's another smaller piece of paper. So put these in an order that you like, trim down any pages that you need to, and I'll be back. So I've got my 3 signatures ready to go, and I've just put the papers in an order where I've got large, small, plain, pattern, digital, and just put them in an order that I like. And so the next process is I'm going to have the envelope in the middle and stitch that into the seam, and then I will glue it up when I'm done. So the next process is getting ready to stitch them in. So with an envelope, because it's going in the middle and it's fairly thin paper, I'm just going to use some tape to reinforce the centre seam. You could use masking tape or anything just to make this a little bit stronger. It's going to be in the middle of the signature, so That will help. And I trimmed a little bit off the end, and then to get the same shape I just basically folded it in half and trimmed around to make the size of the flap the same on both ends. So now what I want to do is sit and get it in position. So I sort of want to center things. I'm pushing with my thumb, pushing all of the seams into the center. So basically lining up the way you want the papers to sit in the book. And I've just made sure that, for example, these were trimmed down so that nothing is higher than the size of the journal. So I've just trimmed things down where I needed to, and just push things in, keep everything nice and tight. So push those center seams in. And things that are smaller, so long as you sort of push them in and sit them, they tend to stay where you want them to. Just keeping everything really tight. And make sure everything's up the right way. Then I've just grabbed out 4 clips. Just make sure it's where you want it. Find the center. And then pushing everything in. Put a clip. I put a clip on all 4. So I'm just using my thumbnail and just pushing that in to make sure that that's really secure. And then nothing will move when you're stitching it in. Okay. So here's my journal. This is the piece that's going to slot in, and so this is going to be the front page. So I want to make sure I've got this up the right way. So this is going to stitch in to that piece there. So I've inked this because once you try and sew this in, it's going to be too difficult. I've got some waxed cotton thread here that I've threaded onto a needle, and I've made the length of it is 3 times the height of my pages, to give you an idea. You can measure if you want to. I'm going to sit it on my board. I know that that's around 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I know that 4 is the center. So this line here is the center, and I'm just going to eyeball it. So basically I'm just sitting it in the middle, and I'm bringing my needle in aligning with that, and I'm just, you can use a pokey tool if you want. A pokey tool if that makes life easier, or you can just use your needle if you've got the strength in your hands to push it through. So I'm just going to make a hole there in the center, and then about 1 inch down and the same 1 inch down from the other end. If you want to be exact, you can make yourself a template up, but I'm not too fussed. I'm going to stitch from the inside first. It means my knot's going to be hidden inside the envelope. So I'm going in through the middle, and I haven't made my holes all the way through, which was a bit silly. Let me just quickly mark those. So I'm putting my pokey tool back in. I want my holes to be in the center of this, so I'm just going to line the top and the bottom up equal with it, and then just making that hole, just trying to make sure it's all level, making that hole in the center there, and without moving anything, come back through the hole in the middle and keeping it in the center, make a hole there, and the same on the bottom. Okay, and then coming in through the hole in the middle and out through the center of that piece, pulling it through, and I just grab and catch one end of it with my thumb. Go back out through one of the holes, it doesn't matter which one. And in, and just pulling that tight. I'm still holding on to this loose end with my thumb, and then out through the top hole, and just pull that end through, and then back through the middle hole and through the middle hole of the journal, and I just want my needle to come up. So this thread is on the left side of this middle cord here, and I want the needle to come up on the other side of it. I'll take my needle away so that I've got a thread either side with this cord in the middle. And just make sure everything's nice and tight on the back, not too tight, but nice and tight. And then just tie your knot. So right over left, and then left over right. Make sure everything's good, and then you can take your clips off and trim those extra threads, and they will be inside the envelope. So that is that first signature in, and I will just grab my bone folder and just give everything a little bit, just open every 2 or 3 pages and give everything just another little bit of a crease. Make sure it's all sitting nicely. So that is stitched in, and that is ready now to glue, to take this strip off and glue that part in there, which I will do. And I will leave, I'm just leaving, I've inked it, so I want to make sure I'm leaving the scored line visible so that when it tucks in, it just sits nicely flat. You can see that score, the inked line where I've scored it, and and that will sit nicely in the journal. So let me just pick the top of this off. And sit this in position. And just showing that inked bit there. Push that top down. And I've broken the score tape, which is fine. I'll get it from the other end. Okay, so that's our first signature stitched in. So you will open the journal and that's the way you'll flip through your signature. So I'm going to go through and do exactly the same thing with the other two and get them glued in, and I will be back. So here is the journal with the 3 signatures stitched in. So there's page 1, that will be page 2, there's page 3, it's going to be the photo flip, page 4, and there's page 5. So that's the 3 signatures. From the side that will be exposed, you can just see the stitching there, and I'm going to cover that. So these are little bits from the strip that you cut off the bottom of the scrapbook paper, and so I'm just going to place those. I've just made them the width of the double-sided tape and I've inked them, so I'm just going to pop those on, and then that will finish off the signature side of it. So let me just pop these on. So I've just made these 8 inches long. Slippery little suckers they are. You don't have to cut, if you're happy to leave the threads showing, you wouldn't have to do this stage. I just think it looks nice to add a little bit more. And I've got a map piece, I just want to make sure it's going on the right way. So then once this is done, I need to finish off the base pages, so the interactive parts of it, and then I'll be ready to start looking at making the cover and the spine to fit what I've got in place here. So I'm just trying to make sure that top is level with that other piece there. And the 1/2 inch actually turned out to be a really good width for, I put 15 or 16 pages in each signature, and that ended up being a really good number for me. So there you have it. Pages are decorated, and once the spine is glued in, you'll find that when you turn the pages, just having that little extra bit of space will mean that things it lays nice and flat, because there's a lot in this journal. There you go, that's this stage finished. So in the next video I'll finish off all of the interactive elements and the backs of all of these pages, and then in the final video I will create the cover and the spine and do some of the decorating to show you what it looks like as a finished album.